The weather's supposed to be cooling for a little while. I think it's supposed to drop down to about 29, 30. So yesterday, I wanted to talk about something, and I spoke to the people involved about it, and I just let them know. And I wanted to talk about something that I think that it's kind of okay. Sometimes when you take a look at a situation, there's an old saying that they're a good example of what you should not become. All right, this is a good example of what you should not do. All right, this is a good example of something that you should not do. And so, yesterday, last night, this whole I'm gonna talk about it like this. This is actually the most impressive evaporation of money that I have ever seen in my entire life. All right, and honest to God, I'm gonna speak with the utmost sincerity, God as my witness. Legitimately, this was what was going on. With the utmost sincerity, this is what happened. All right, because my whole situation right now is that I am effectively at a point of my life where I have finally figured out how to make a very large amount of money. I am actually making an excessive amount of money. I finally got to this point, and it's like I finally make this massive excess of money. And I was actually, honest to God, with the utmost sincerity, I was like, well, if it's this easy to take money out of my LLC, and I'm not actually in a situation where I need to do 400% just to qualify for the bare minimum, then then I can actually probably pull about somewhere between about $25,000 and $35,000 a month, a net profit every single month out of my business. And it wouldn't even cause any damage to my business. My business would still be able to grow. All right, my business would not have any damage. I would not be going into a negative, right? I would not be going massively in debt. I would not be leveraging myself to the eyeballs. Nothing. I can probably pull about $25,000 to $35,000 a month out of my business without causing any damages, and that would just be net profit. Right? That would be money that I have left over after I've paid for everything. And so I was like, in reality, and I, honest to God, with the utmost sincerity. All right, with the utmost sincerity, honest to God, God is my witness. This was legitimately what I was doing. And this is what happened. All right, and this is going to turn into a story about the most impressive evaporation of money that I have ever seen. Yesterday, I was doing business with somebody who legitimately managed to lose about $50,000 a minute in a conversation with me. They had a 3-minute conversation with me, and they managed to lose about 150 grand. All right, and I'm going to talk about this just because, I hope that this doesn't happen to you. All right, I sincerely, this is not I hope that this does not happen to you. All right, and so here's what happened. Right now I'm in this situation where I have finally found a way to make a massive excess of money. I have actually realized that it's very easy I don't have to worry about paying 50% in taxes. I genuinely believed that I had to pay 50% in taxes to pull money out of my LLC, but I don't have to do that. And so now I'm sitting in a situation where I had made all these plans to effectively do, about 700 to 1,000% better than I actually needed to make it, and I still managed to actually do it. All right, and so here's the situation that I'm in. The money's not going to do anything. All right, after a certain point, the money's not going to do anything. I talk about this all the time. The money's not going to do anything. So my whole big thing was that I was going to pay bonuses. I was going to pay bonuses to the people that helped me. And I've actually talked about this very, very, very thoroughly in the past. There's a reason why you should do business with rich people. There's a reason why. And I'm not talking about someone who's making $1 million a year. I'm talking about people who make $10 million a year. I'm talking about people, because I will give you my perspective, because I make about, I would say on the average, I would generate somewhere around, it's going to be close to $10 million a year. And I will give you my perspective. And when I give you my perspective, you will understand. So here was my honest to God situation with the utmost sincerity. I was legitimately preparing to just write bonuses to the people that helped me. right? Because I was like, my whole situation with this is like, I genuinely believe that if you get to somewhere around $15,000 a month, that you can effectively do anything on the entire planet. And if somebody legitimately helps me, $15,000 a month is not a large amount of money to me. I can, there are ways in these various deals that can provide $15,000 a month for the people that help me. And this is a very good example. I will actually tell you about honest to God, with the utmost sincerity, this was what was happening to me. My whole situation was that, when I take a look at my financials and I take a look at everything that I have going on, right, I just take a look at it for what it is. All right, I have effectively more or less hit a point of inflection. The amount of money that I make is about to go up on an exponential scale, on a vertical scale. All right, I found a way to make a large amount of money. I can do it. It's effectively, and I can do it reliably, right? I actually knowledgeably know how to do these various things that can actually appreciate tax deductible assets, etc., run a business, etc., right? I can actually do this knowledgeably, right? You put me on a field in the middle of nowhere in Central Texas, and you just say have fun, and you come back a year later, I would have easily made myself $1 million, no problem. Right, and here is my situation. I'm at this point in my life where I have a massive excess of money. Right, I finally got to a point where it's like I am actually generating a massive excess of money. The money is such a large amount that I cannot really even do anything with it. And so I figured I was going to write bonuses. And so this person that I'm doing business with right now, they're not, I've always said that I don't judge people, right? I don't judge. If I make 150 times more money than you, I don't look at you and go, you're less of a human being than me because you make 150 times less money than me. I don't think like that. I don't slap people in the face with money. All right. Whatever, to me, the way I see it is that I'm more or less just like everybody else. I just happen to spend a lot of time farming, learning how to farm. That's my whole situation, right? I talk about this all the time. I'm just a normal dude who spent a lot of time learning how to farm. And when I learned how to farm, the thing about me was that I went and I specifically chose people who were like the best, right? Like if I wanted to learn about animal diet, I went and I watched somebody who was taking care of 100,000 animals on a commercial feed yard. Right, if I wanted to learn about animal medication, I went and I watched somebody who was taking care of 100,000 animals at a feed yard. Right, if I wanted to learn about the animal's digestion, I watched a person who was taking care of 50,000 dairy cattle on a dairy operation. Right, those are the people that I watched to learn how to do these things. I didn't go and ask some random person who was borderline a homeless person. All right, that's my situation, is that those are the people that I watch. Those are the people that I learned from. And I just spent a lot of time learning how to farm. That's effectively my situation. And here's the thing. And so this person that I was doing business with, I estimate that I make somewhere around 100 to 150 times more money than they do. That is what I estimate. The thing about me is that I can look at something and I can determine how much money's involved. Right, that's one of my big things that, I've always said that's a very practical skill to have when you get into business. You need to take a look at something and determine how much money's involved. So I took a look at this individual from the very beginning, and I was, and I just took a look at him, right? I just took a look at him, and I said, I probably estimate that I probably make somewhere between 100 to 150 times more money than this person, but that doesn't, but I'm not going to judge them for that. All right, I'm not going to be like an arrogant prick. I'm not going to be like, I'm not going to do business with you because I make 200 times more money than you. I'm not going to do that. I gave them the benefit of the doubt. And the entire way, the whole thing was that this person, the thing about this person was, this was legitimately what I thought about this person. I'm just gonna tell you, honest to God, sincerity. God can be my witness about this. I'm just gonna tell you what I thought. This person, I mean, they're not exactly the best, right? I mean, they're not, but at the end of the day, at least they're still getting it done, right? At least they're still pushing the contract, or at least they're getting it done, right? That's the whole situation. That's what I thought. At least they're getting it done. That's actually the best way to put it. At least they're getting it done. And last night, 36 hours before December 20th, last night at 6 p.m., they call me and they say, oh, by the way, they did not agree to extending the deadline by 11 days, right? Because I needed until December 31st, and I told them specifically on December 1st, actually probably November 20-something, that I needed an 11-day extension because the bank was telling me that I needed until the 31st. So I told them late November that I needed an extension until December 31st. And they said, and more or less they said, okay. Right, all right, we're good to go, right? And yesterday, 36 hours before December 20th, which was the original closing date, but I needed an extension for 11 days, they called me and they said, by the way, the people who are selling the property, the seller has denied the extension. They denied the extension. All right. And I'm like, are you dumb? Right? I mean, you can't just tell me 36 hours beforehand that the extension has been denied. And here is the thing, all right? And this is what I mean by, make sure you actually think about because this person managed to evaporate about $150,000 of money going into their pocket over the next 2 years, over the next year by me. They evaporated 150 grand in about 30 seconds. All right, because think about it. Does that seem like a reasonable thing to do, right? I mean, take a look at my situation. Do I look like I have money problems? All right, I mean, take a look at it for what it is. Just determine how much money is involved by yourself and sit there and think about, do I look like somebody who has money problems? Right? Are you dumb? Why would you call me 36 hours? Why would you call me 36 hours beforehand and tell me that the contract needs to close in 36 hours or they're going to take your deal away? Why would you do that? Right? If you're gonna tell me that it's an 11-day extension, all right, we're not talking about 11 years, we're not talking about 11 weeks, we're not talking about 11 months, we're talking about 11 days. I needed an 11-day extension. And you're calling me 36 hours before the supposed closing date, and you're telling me that they're not going to give me the extension. You should have called me weeks ago, right? If they were not going to accept the extension, they should have said something on the 1st of December, right? Because I told them the late November, and this is what I mean by, a lot of you don't understand that. And I don't mean to, and I'm just gonna say this is a good example of how you should not turn out. This is a good example of what you should not do, because this person legitimately managed to lose 150 grand in about 30 seconds. I was honest to God with the utmost sincerity of my soul. I was preparing myself to have this person to more or less, this person was going to make about $150,000 to $200,000 off of me, specifically off of just me over the next about year and a half. And now they just evaporated everything in about 30 seconds. All right. And here, it's like think about what you're going to say legitimately, right? I mean, you legitimately had an opportunity to do massively better for yourself, and you effectively just evaporated it over nothing. It was an 11-day extension. We're not talking about 11 weeks. We're not talking about 11 months. We're not talking about 11 years. We're talking about 11 days. Right? You can't call me 11. And here is what I think. And I've always said the thing about just punishment, right? Because my whole situation is like, do you really want to live in a world where people can intentionally be malicious and then they just feel like they can get away with it? And I talked about this in terms of an extreme example. Let's say that you have somebody who is manufacturing bombs and strapping them onto kids. Right, I used a very extreme example of this. Do you want to live in a world where this person can legitimately just do that freely? Is that really the world that you want to live in? Not me. Right, and so when you deal with these people, And I know that that this is very difficult, but you effectively have to have just punishment. There has to be a system of just punishment, because if there is no just punishment, people will go and be malicious, right? I've talked about this. There are people who will legitimately be malicious, right? And so I thought about this whole situation, and I said, you know what? She effectively told me that they were going to cancel the deal. That, you know, if I did not close the contract in 36 hours. And, you know, I gave her, you know, and I discussed this with her, and they told me that they are going to give me, you know, the extension until December 31st. All right. So I did get my extension, but here's the thing. Because they did that, I believe that it is just punishment for me to take my future deal away from these people. I was, you know, because here's my situation. When you take a look at what I'm doing, I have legitimately been planning. I'm not talking about, oh, I'm going to go on a mystical, magical adventure. I am taking a look at my financial situation, and I was legitimately planning to purchase about $3 million worth of real estate in the next year and a half. All right, I've even gone over my plans in thorough detail. All right, if I meet certain benchmarks, right? If I hit certain goals, then I will then go and look to buy myself about a $3 million property, right? I've been talking about this for weeks. I said, you know, these are the goals that I need to hit, right? If the weather is, you know, if I get about 3 to 4, you know, if I get some decent biomass accumulation on my field, what's gonna cause that? About 3 to 4 inches of rain a month. You know, some decent weather, right? I mean, it stays on the average between 50 and 75 degrees, right? You know, on the average, right? And, you know, I get some decent biomass accumulation of grass, and I run my cattle up to a higher weight, right? I'm talking about increasing the overall weight of my animals, right? The average market weight of my herd was 650, but I'm taking that up to 850, right? And I'm going to increase the size of my herd. And if the feeder cattle market stays within the 240 to 250 range, then then et cetera, then this is how much money I'm going to make. And that money, what I'm going to do with that money is I'm going to go and I'm going to purchase myself about, you know, I was anticipating that much money would float me on about $3 million worth of real estate. I have legitimately been talking about this, right? And honest to God, with the utmost sincerity of my entire existence, I was legitimately considering using this same agent to represent me on my next deal. And she would have gotten a 3% commission, and then I would have also paid her a bonus. And she evaporated that in 30 seconds over nothing. Over an 11-day extension. Why would you tell me that you're going to take my contract away? Are you dumb? Do I look like I have money problems? Right? I mean, legitimately, just take a look. Right? I mean, I even brought her onto my farm and showed her my farm. Do I look like I have money problems? Right? I don't understand. Right? I mean, I don't understand why, you know, it's like, why would you, it's like, I was legitimately considering using the same agent to represent me on a $3 million deal. And I was going to pay a bonus to everybody that helped me. Right? And she evaporated that in 30 seconds by being an idiot. Legitimately, 30 seconds. That's all it took. The most impressive evaporation of money that I have ever seen in my entire life. All right, like, I don't understand. I was even going to give her a bonus this year because I'm already at a point where it's like the money, you know, I make such a excess of money that it doesn't matter. And the thing about me is that I can effectively go anywhere and make this money as long as I'm, you know, more or less in Central Texas. Right? I mean, I can legitimately get on a bus right now, go into the middle of Central Texas, nowhere. I have legitimately zero idea where I am, and I can start myself a cattle ranch, effective immediately with nothing. Right? I can make myself $1 million easy in a year farming cattle. It's not difficult. I was even talking about this, but my LLC, my whole business situation is that even right now, I can probably pull about $80,000 to $100,000 a year out of my business money, cash, and not cause any damage to my LLC. I would not be causing any negative side effects to my business or anything, and I'm actually increasing that amount to about 325%. I believe that within about 6 months, logically, I anticipate that I will be able to pull about $25,000 to $30,000 a month out of my LLC without causing any damages to my business. And this is, and I'm talking about net profit money that I have left over after I've paid for everything. I will have a net excess of about $25,000 to $35,000 a month. And I was legitimately going to pay this person I'm being with the utmost sincerity, God as my witness. I was going to pay this person a bonus on top of the commission that she made from me. And she managed to evaporate that in about 30 seconds. All right, I'm telling you, you don't want to end up in a situation where you come off as an idiot. If you come off as, and I'm not saying this like I don't believe myself to be superior to anybody. I'm just a normal dude who makes a massive amount of money. That's more or less how I see it. Just a normal person who makes a massive amount of money. Not even a massive amount of money, and I've talked about this, but in terms of money, after a certain point, the money doesn't do anything. And I've actually talked about this in great detail, right? I mean, if you actually take a look at my situation, I make about 200 times more money than the average American. Somewhere around 100 to 250 times. But if you actually took a look at how much money I make, and if I were to continue to progress to make this much money every single year for the next 62 years of my life, I wouldn't even have maybe not even have half of 1 billion. And this is what I meant by when you actually see somebody and you're like, this person legitimately, I don't know what it is, but they have a large amount of money. That person probably has more money than you can ever imagine. Legitimately. That's how the wealth scale works. Right? I've talked about this. The higher that you go on the wealth scale, the larger the disparity becomes. And I've used me as an example. I make about 200 to 250 times more money than the average American. Even after I've paid for everything, I have legitimately paid for everything that I could possibly want. I still have about 25 to 35,000. Even right now, I have about $7,000 to $10,000 a month left over. I would honestly anticipate, I am giving you with the utmost sincerity, I would anticipate that I have somewhere between $25,000 and $35,000 a month cash left over every single month within 365 days. And if you took a look at how much money I generate, and that is money that I could pull out of my business without causing any damage to my business at all. If I was legitimately going to go on some worthless scheme idea, oh my God, I'm going to leverage myself to the eyeballs, and then I'm going to put this money into purchasing assets for my LLC, and then I'm going to liquidate that money and put that money into my personal account, right? I'm going to tie these assets to my LLC, and then I'm going to take the money out of my LLC and put it in my I'm talking about $25,000 to $35,000 a month left over after I've paid for everything without causing any damage to my LLC at all. All right, and if you took a look at how much money I generate, and you were to take a look at it on a global scale, even though I generate this much money, if I generated this much money for the next 62 years of my life, I would not even have half of $1 billion. Barely have half of 1 billion. That's what wealth looks like when you go onto the upper portion of the economy. And I've talked about this. If you want to know what it's like to have to go and make $10 million a year by yourself as a first generation farmer running commercial cattle, if you want to know what that feels like, then go and do it. Nobody's stopping you. All right, there's a reason you're not doing it. All right, I don't know what that reason is. It's probably a laundry list of things. But if you really want to know what it's like to have to go and make $10 million a year by yourself on a commercial cattle farm as a first generation farmer, then go and do it. All right. Other than that, in terms of the money, you need to understand that the money does not really change anything after a certain point, granted that you do not have massive problems. And I was legitimately preparing myself to pay this person about $150,000 to $200,000 a year. Legitimately, I was going to give them, I was not going to ask them for any cut of their commission or anything. I was going to have them represent me on my next deal. I was going to have them represent me on my next deal, and I was going to pay them a bonus. Why? Because the amount of money that at that point, if they legitimately helped me, then that amount of money that they receive would effectively allow them to do anything that they want for the entire year, granted that they help me. Right? That's the whole thing. That was my whole big idea. If they help me, I want them to be able to do whatever the heck else it is that they want to do. I want them to be able to do that. So how much money do I think I need to give this person so that that is possible? About $15,000 a month, right? And if they represent me on a $3 million deal, 100 grand has already been taken care of. I will give them the 3% commission. They can have it. And then I will pay them a bonus. And once I've done that, they effectively have now made enough money for the entire year to do whatever else it is that they want, as long as they help me. That was legitimately what I was planning, and this person legitimately just evaporated the most amount of money that I have ever seen possible in about 30 seconds. You know, I have not seen anybody lose that much money that quickly before, ever. Legitimately lost about 150 grand in 30 seconds. Congratulations, right? I mean, because, and here is my whole thing. Is that if she is, or not, I'm not even going to give this person a gender. I'm just going to tell them, I'm just going to say it's a person, right? Because gender doesn't really matter, right? I mean, this person legitimately had an opportunity, a legitimate opportunity, not like some La La Land journey they were going to go on a fairy tale adventure. Legitimately had an opportunity to make themselves $200,000 in the next year, about $150,000 to $200,000 in the next 365 days. If it took a long time, maybe a year and a half. And they evaporated that in 30 seconds. Why did they do that? Because they contacted me 36 hours before the closing date, and then effectively just told me that they are going to cancel the contract if I do not come through with the money in 36 hours, which is dumbfounding to me. Because it's like, you know, I've even brought this person to my field. I've even showed them what I'm doing. I've even showed them what I do, right? And just use your common sense. Do I look like somebody who has money problems? Let's use our 2 brain cells, right? I even go, you know, like, I don't understand. Right? I don't understand. This person legitimately just evaporated 150 grand in about 30 seconds. Right? Like, how, like, you know, and this is what I mean by you know, you probably, you know, need to spend a lot of time thinking about what the heck it is that you're going to do legitimately. Because if you had, you know, not even, you know, but a majority, there are a lot of you that will end up in this situation. You genuinely will end up in a situation where you probably have an opportunity to do better for yourself financially on a relatively drastic scale, at least to a point where money will no longer become important to you. Right? If I help this man do what it is that he wants to do, then he will effectively give me enough money that I can do anything else that I want for the entire year. Granted that I actually help him, right? I help him reach his goals, right? I've listened to what he does. I've listened to his goals. And, you know, and this guy, I mean, he probably the most solid individual that I have ever seen. I mean, this guy legitimately works 7 days a week. The most capable individual that I have ever seen. So if I help him, then I can more or less for the entire year, I can do whatever else it is that I want to do. Congratulations, you have now achieved your freedom, right? I mean, you can do whatever you want. You help me with my one deal. There is your 150 grand. There is your 180 grand. I don't, you know, me, I don't care about 150 grand. I don't care about 180 grand. All right. That's a minuscule amount of money. All right. And I, you know, and this person, you don't want to end up like that. All right, it's like you legitimately had an opportunity to do better for yourself, and you just evaporated it instantaneously by being an idiot. Think about what you're doing. All right, think about what you're doing. What was there to gain from having this conversation with me? 11 days. You're going to close 11 days earlier. That was what you had to gain. That's nothing, right? I mean, what could you have possibly lost? Who knows? Nobody knows, right? I mean, you could have lost a lot. The amount that you could have lost was a bottomless pit. And you decided that it was a good idea to tell me that I would lose my contract in 36 hours if I did not effectively just close the contract, when I specifically said about a month ago on the end of November. Right, and I talked to this person about this, and I told them that I was never doing business with them again because that was ridiculous. I told them in the end of November, give me until December 31st, and they more or less told me okay. Even if they did not tell me okay, you cannot call me 36 hours before the supposed closing date and tell me, by the way, in 36 hours you need to be ready to go with everything. Well, you know, that's ridiculous. Congratulations. Now, I mean, go and be poor by yourself forever. I don't understand what it is that, and I call this imploding at the finish line, right? I actually talked about this a long time ago. All right, here was a person who legitimately had an opportunity to possibly do better for themselves financially on a drastic scale, a legitimate opportunity to do better for themselves on a massive scale, and they imploded. Right? I mean, think about what it is that you're doing, right? I mean, and I believe that it is just for me to take away the next contract because they threatened to take away my contract this time. So I believe that it is just. I believe that it is just punishment. I'm going to forget the money, right? I mean, the money is whatever, right? I mean, to them, 200 grand is probably a large amount of money. 200 grand to me is a negligible amount of money. What are you going to do with 200 grand? All right, and here is the situation. I'm going to take away the future contract away from them. I was genuinely considering, legitimately, with the utmost sincerity, honest to God sincerity, I was genuinely considering using this person, not even using this, but having this person represent me for my next deal. And I believe that my next deal is going to be somewhere between $2.5 and $3.5 million. They were going to get a 3% commission, and I was also going to give them a bonus. Why was I going to give them a bonus? Because I figured that if I give them the bonus and the commission, then they effectively now make enough money to do whatever the heck it is that they want for the entire year. They don't have to worry about nothing else except for making sure that my deal goes through. Right? And now here we are. Right? Legitimately evaporated $180,000 in 30 seconds. Congratulations. All right, I don't understand. He's like, how could, and I've talked about this, right? I mean, I talk about this all the time. I mean, you are much more likely, if you somehow happen to find a legitimate wealthy individual, you legitimately found one, right? And I've talked about the idea of finding one. It's almost a 0%. I actually do not know anybody personally. I have not met anybody organically that makes even relatively close as much money as me, not even close. And how did I make my money? I just go onto fields in the middle of nowhere in Central Texas and start cattle farms. It's that simple. All right, is it that simple? No, it's not. There's a lot of intricacies and a lot of details that need to be thoroughly examined. Right? I mean, there are a lot of things that need to happen for this to work properly. But effectively, that's how I generated millions of dollars a year. And the people, and I figured, if it's this easy for me to pull money out of my LLC, and I have such a drastic excess, what can I do with the money? I can write bonuses for the people that helped me. That was legitimately honest, and I'm still going to do that. I am still going to write bonuses for the people that helped me. But don't end up like this person. All right, this is a good example of how you should not become. Had a legitimate opportunity to do drastically well for themselves, and in a 30-second conversation just came off as a complete idiot and then evaporated everything. All right, I mean, and that's, I'm not saying that like to be malicious. I'm not saying that to be cruel. I'm actually kind of upset about the whole thing. Right, I was legitimately considering having this person represent me for my next deal. I've been taking a look at my numbers, and I finally hit a point in my life where I'm making a drastic amount of money. I can actually go and help people. Right, I actually have enough money to give bonuses, and I actually have enough money to pay people a significant amount of money, and it won't even matter to me. Right, and then boom, this happens. Right, why would you threaten to take away my contract with a notice, a 36-hour notice, over some negligible amount of money in 11 days? What a worthless thing to do. Now I think you're legitimately an idiot. Right? You just evaporated 180,000. I mean, this person just legitimately evaporated $150,000 to $200,000 worth of money for them in a 30-second time period. Legitimately. I honest to God, with the utmost sincerity of my entire existence, God is my witness. I was considering giving this person a bonus, and I was also considering having them represent me on my next deal. And I anticipate that my next deal is going to be somewhere between $2.5 and $3.5 million. They were going to get a 3% commission. I'm not going to ask them for any of their commission money. I don't care about your commission money. 180 grand is worthless. All right, and then boom, congratulations. And it's like, if you helped me push my deal through, that was the one thing that you did all year in terms of work. That was all you focused on the entire year. You would have made enough money for the rest of the year to go and do whatever the heck it is else that you wanted to do. But now here we are, right? I mean, I don't understand. And I don't want, don't tell me, keep your BS to yourselves, right? All right? I mean, oh my God, well, maybe you don't know what's going on. Trust me, I don't want to know. All right? Trust me. All right? You could have gone, if you're in a situation like this, you have to understand that if you make this money, you can effectively go and do whatever the heck it is else that you want to do for the rest of the year. All right, I mean, I don't understand. Don't tell me I don't want to know. All right, and so, but that's it for me today, YouTube. Y'all have a good one.